Hey everybody, welcome to the GMG review. Today we're taking a look at Warhammer the Old World, Arcane Journal, Warriors of Chaos, the latest supplement for the Old World series of books, and a return to square bases from Warhammer, and of course Games Workshop. Now, this is a full color supplement for it's the Ravening Hordes supplement for the Old World, which has the Warriors of Chaos army list in it. And what it adds is a couple of Armies of Renown, or Infamy, I think is what they're called in this edition of the game. Some new characters, a return of a very old classic miniature, some rules for some classic Forge World stuff, and generally kind of brings you up to speed on what's going on in the timeline for the Warriors of Chaos at this point. We have a new kind of upstart. It's Friedal the Chainmaker. She's sort of a proto-Archeon, seeking to become the uniter of all the tribes and sweep down and destroy the realms of men. As such, the Armies of Infamy that are in here are a sort of like raiding clan in longships, the Wolves of the Sea. And then we also have a sort of heavy cavalry mailed Fist of Chaos army as well. And that's kind of what these books do. They show sort of like alternative ways to play the armies, give you some bonus rules for doing so, and then access to a new library of magic items, like arcane items that you can take, some of which are themed around the special armies and some of which are just generic ones the army can take in general. So whether or not you're playing right out of the Ravening Hordes book, or you're adding a new way of playing your army, this book kind of is designed to be a supplement but not required, going on top of the existing Warriors of Chaos set. So full color, like I said, we've got most of the book dedicated to teaching you about chaos, like the background of chaos, their like various sort of like power bases inside the world itself, like the Chaos Waste, the Shadowlands, and the northern tribes that worship them, because I mean the closer you live to the Chaos Wastes up north, and the giant portal that's at the top of the world that's spilling the warp into it, then the more they're going to affect your day-to-day life and the more you're probably going to worship them. So you can see here sort of like as the cutaway goes, the creeping down south of all that stuff. Some classic art in here. They've sepiated all of it, but we've got some Adrian Smith art in here. A bunch of like really cool pieces from around 6th edition, 7th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle. As well as I think this is a relatively new piece right here, done for this book in color, which I thought was cool. So again, I won't spoil it too much, but you got the gist. This is about the era where that is the sort of like the uniting Lord of Chaos, and she's going to get some rules in here as well. You got a bespoke scenario too, the Ruins of Hollum. This battle amongst the Ruins of Hollum was fought between the marauding Chaos Worshippers under the command of Friedal the Chainmaker and the mercenary army of Westerland, so an Empire army. And as you can see, obviously it is a defender's deployment zone where they're trying to attack through and destroy Friedal's monument. Our color section, so you can see what's returning here. They've brought back the rankable Warriors of Chaos, which were, I believe, the 6th edition release, because 5th edition Chaos Warriors were notoriously hard to rank up. I had to put mine on bases that were like A, B, C, D for rank, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across, so I could remember the one way the unit went together every time I packed them up. And then this was the biggest surprise to me. They brought back Galrock. I can't believe they brought this miniature back. When this miniature came out, I loved this miniature just for how completely wacky it was, because it's a dragon whose head has ripped in half and become 2 fighting possessed heads. It's basically a possessed dragon. But it's such a wacky miniature. I'm just so surprised that this wasn't something they decided to do in plastic. They brought back these crazy Chaos Ogres too, as well as all the plastic Marauders that got replaced by the Dark Oath stuff in AOS. So if you're looking at your hands on these, I believe they're all print on demand. They're probably gonna go fast. I don't know if they'll get restocked. It's Old World, it's Workshop. Who knows? And then one of my favorite Juan Diaz miniatures, which is the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, apparently is coming back as well. It's a wonderful monster kit. And then this is the Warpfire Dragon is a Forge World kit that was available for some time, which also has rules in here, which I thought was neat. And apparently a resin version of the Hell Cannon is also being released. But anything that's photographed in here, I think is probably going to be available for order when this stuff goes up. All right. Let's get into some Armies of Infamy, because this is why you're all here. The Wolves of the Sea, Warriors of Chaos. So it's an Army of Infamy. And again, these army lists will basically pare down what your available options are, but then give you some bonuses for just like restricting yourself to those things. So in this one, the characters are 50%. You can have a Chaos Lord, Demon Prince, or Sorcerer Lord, up to 1. An Exalted Champion or Exalted Sorcerer per 1,000 points. And then Aspiring Champions and Marauder Tribe Chieftains can be taken freely. 25% have to be put on Chaos Marauders, Marauder Horsemen, Marauder Tribe Berserkers, and Chaos Warhounds. Now the Marauder Tribe Berserkers and Huskarls are special units that are in here. Come on now. Oh, they are Berserkers. And I'm going to do this as I go through the Armies of Infamy because it just saves time doing it later on. So they are standard kind of humanies, but movement 5, weapon skill 4, and toughness 4. The Marauders are tough. The head taker is the champion guy. He's got a leadership of 8 and 2 attacks. They're on 25 by 25s, which is kind of the standard now, and they got a min unit of 5. For 8 points, it's a pretty solid stat line, man. With toughness 4, everything getting toughness 4 in this list is a bit crazy. I think even the basic, the Marauders are toughness 3. But you can buy them additional hand weapons and flails, and then you can get a champion, standard musician, and they can have ambushers as well. But core, they've got Frenzy, Chaos Undivided, Move Through Cover, Open Order, Relentless Warriors, Skirmishers, and Warbands. Relentless Warriors is a model. With this special, it's a 6+ ward against any wounds suffered by non-magical attacks. The idea is that they're sky-clad, right? They're Berserkers, and they're not going to go down without a fight. And it says just to represent them in your games, just use Chaos Marauders and give them like cool helmets from the Marauder Horsemen maybe, or paint them specially. I really like these callouts in this book where they give you like modeling options for everything. They did this right back in the beginning with the doing the different like phalanx and legion stuff for the Tomb Kings. And then for special, like I said, Chaos Warriors, Chaos Chariots, Skin Wolves, Huskarls, and Chaos Spawn. So the Huskarls and the Chieftains being special. So the Chieftain's basically like a lighter Exalted champion, weapon skill 5, strength toughness 4 with 2 wounds. He's 65 points. He's kind of just an Empire hero almost, but only movement 4 like a normal human, not 5 like the Berserkers are. He's got access to kind of all the usual cool stuff: Rallying Cry, Gaze of the Gods, Mark of Chaos Undivided, Warband, so you get this leadership bonus from being ranked up. And then Ambushers and Chaos Armor with a 6+ save. So a nice, like, slightly cheaper than an Exalted champion dude who's themed to the Marauders. Then the Huskarls, also movement and weapon skill 4, so not fast like the Berserkers, but initiative 3, leadership 7, 18 points each. And they've got a first sword, but they're all cavalry. And then their actual war horses, strength 3, weapon skill 3. So a relatively cheap Marauder horse. And again, represent these in your games. You could use components maybe from the helmets and shields of Chaos Warriors to upgrade the guys to make them a little heavier looking. They're armed with hand weapons and light armor and iron shod hooves for free, but you can buy them cavalry spears and flails, throwing axes and javelins. And you can replace the light armor with heavy armor. So they can almost become like middle class knights and take shields. You can have your first sword, champion, and standard, and then you can have drilled, 1 unit per 1,000 points for 2 points, and magic items. They've got close order, counter charge, furious charge, Mark of Chaos Undivided, Swift Stride, and Warband. So a decent like middle range knight unit, which is kind of interesting because those don't really exist in a lot of armies. It used to be an option for Dogs of War that you'd have like these middle range knights, but they're kind of just like full plate or nothing these days. So those are your special choices, and the Skin Wolves are your special unit. These were, I believe, resin kits from Forge World, and they're monster infantry around 40s. They've got 2 or more unit size, and their weapon skill 5, movement 7, so super fast. They can keep up with the Warhounds. Strength toughness 4, 3 wounds. Initiative 4, 3 attacks, leadership 7. They're only 45 points. I really like the Skin Wolves. They got Blood Rage, Mark of Chaos Undivided, Open Order, Primal Fury, Regeneration 5+, Skirmisher, Swift Stride, and Warped Form. Warped Form is when you are chosen in the combat step of 1.1 of any choose and fight step of that phase, choose one of the following transfigurations. So basically you pick this at the start of the combat. Enlarged Claws, you get Armor Piercing 1. Additionally, they gain the Armor Bane 2 special rule. Barbed Protrusions, they get extra attacks +1. Toughened Flesh, their toughness goes up by 1 and their armor value by 2. So they could go up to having 5+ armor save and toughness 5. So if you're getting hit first, toughen your flesh. If you need to make lots of attacks against something small, up your attacks. And then if you got to fight knights or something like that, throw in the enlarged claws. So they really have a cool like toolbox thing where they can dictate how they're going to fight, who they're fighting, and it really does make them a really I think for 45 points a really versatile unit. I think you'll see a lot of those in the special slot. I'd take them over the knights if I'm being honest. And then rare, 33% can be on Chaos Ogres, Chaos Trolls, Dragon Ogres, a gigantic spawn of Chaos for 1,000 points. This was another Forge World kit that I loved. His like mouth was extending. Really cool model. He's on a 60 by 100, and he's like a Chaos spawn. So he's got a 3d6 move, strength up to 6. He's got Dragon stats, leadership 10 with d6 +1 attacks. So the random attacks isn't great, but the rest of that stat line is pretty great. His Talons get AP -1, and his Maw gets -2, but also strike last. And then you can mark him Spawn of Nurgle, Spawn of Slaanesh, Spawn of Khorne, or Spawn of Tzeentch. And he's got Armorbane 2 built in, Close Order, First Charge, Immune to Psychology, Large Target, Random Attacks, Random Movement, Stomp Attacks D6, Terror, Timber, and Unbreakable. He's like a super giant. And then the Khorne one has Impact Hits D3 and Killing Blow. The Nurgle one has Poison Attacks and Regeneration 5+. The Slaanesh one has Counter Charge and Strikes First. And the Tzeentch one has Flaming Attacks, Magical Attacks, and Magic Resistance -2. They're all kind of great. I think Impact Hits D3 with Killing Blow is pretty amazing. Especially on the number of attacks it has, but Regenerate on all those wounds and Poison Attacks. With Weapon Skill 3, just rolling your base number of attacks and looking for 6s to auto wound is pretty cool. Oh, wait, is that what Poison Attacks do anymore? I can't remember. That's what 6th edition Poison Attacks do. My mind travels through time. And then Chaos Incarnate, any army made using the Warriors of Chaos or Beastmen, Brainherds, Grand Army can take 0 to 1 of these as a rare choice. So this adds to those lists too. And then you can get a Dragon Ogre Shaygoth, or 0 to 1 Chaos Giant as well. And then you can have Gore Herds and Ungore Herds as your mercenaries, so that was kind of cool. So you can mix in the Beastmen with this army list. You get a BSB and you get magic items, 25 points for BSB, and your special rules are Favor of the Gods. If a character with the Wolves of the Sea army kills their opponent in a challenge, they must immediately roll in the Gaze of the Gods table. In addition, should a unit within a Wolves of the Sea army claim the standard of any enemy unit as a trophy, they can immediately make a roll in Gaze of the Gods, because like they're showing off to the gods is the whole point. Seaborn Raiders, the Wolves of Chaos Marauders and Marauder Horsemen within a Wolves of the Sea army get ambushers for +1 point per model. Aspiring champions with the troop type of infantry or cavalry with the Wolves of the Sea army may have ambushers for 10 points per model. So the idea is your longships are showing up and you're getting to deploy where you want because you're like basically going around the enemy. And then Warriors Duel. Now this is the crazy rule. Instead of rolling off to determine which player takes the first turn, you may challenge your opponent to a Warriors Duel. If your opponent accepts, both players choose a single champion with a wound characteristic of 1, who is infantry or cavalry, and they must perform a warrior duel. The chosen combatants fight as if they're engaged in a challenge, fighting as many rounds of combat as necessary to determine a victor. Once a victor has been determined, that player's controlling player takes the first turn. If both champions are slain, the player must roll off as normal. If the challenge is declined, the Warriors of the Sea army counts having won the roll off to determine which player takes the first turn. So basically, you get to throw people down at the very beginning. It's kind of like Khaleesi showing up at the walls, right, demanding the surrender, and they send down their champions. It's that kind of an idea. And you just get to fight a champion in someone else's army to see if you get the first turn or not. There's a few things that can first charge in this army, so I think it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's super thematic and cool. 2, it could allow you to grab first turn. There's a few things that might be able to first turn charge. And there are scenarios where you might be closer to your opponent than not. And then we have the Heralds of Darkness. This is your heavy cavalry, sorry. And you can have 50% of your characters, which would be Chaos Swords and Demon Princes, 0 to 1 Exalted Champion or Sorcerer Lord per 1,000 points. And then you can have Aspiring Champions and Exalted Sorcerers. This is all from the Ravening Hordes list. Core for 33% is a unit of Chaos Knights, 1+, you have to have one. Marauder Horsemen and Chaos Warhounds, and 0 to 1 Chaos Chariot can also be taken as a core. Up to 50% of your point values can be spent on 0 to 1 units of Chaos Chosen Knights, 0 to 1 Chaos Chariots per 1,000 points, Chaos Spawn, Chaos Chariots and Chimeras, and Dragon Ogres. So Dragon Ogres mixed in, which I think is kind of cool. And then your Chosen Chariots and your Chosen, where are they? Knights. The Chosen Chariots can pull out of here. So strength up is 5 with 4 wounds. Weapon skill 5 because they're chosen. Strength 4, initiative 4, 2 attacks, and leadership 9. 140 points. They've got a 3+ armor save. And you could just convert these like out of your standard chariot miniature. Just put cooler stuff on the character model that's on the back. And you can make them Khorne, Nurgle, Slaanesh, or Tzeentch. Close order, counter charge, and sorcerer weapons. First charge impact hits D6+1 for the chariot, and then Mark of Chaos Undivided. You can also stick your Lord, Exalted Champion, or Aspiring Champion on one for 140 points, which I thought was cool too, as their mount. And then rares, Gorby's Chariots, 0 to 1 Dragon Ogre Shaygoth, 0 to 1 Gigantic Spawn of Chaos, 0 to 1 Chaos Giant, or a Warp Fire Dragon, which is basically another profile to use with that resin miniature from Forge World. 375 points, 6s across the board except for initiative and attacks, which are 5 and 3. He's leadership 8. 60 by 100, so he's not on the huge base. He's on a big base, though. Wicked Claws, which are opposite. They're basically strength at AP -2. His Warpfire Blast, which is a 6 to 24 inch stone thrower, bombardment, cumbersome, flaming attacks, multiple wounds, D3 +1. And it's AP 8 under the hole, sorry, -3 under the hole, -1 normally, and then strength 8 under the hole, and 4 for the blast. Pretty cool, and it fires like a stone thrower. Now, if you miss fire's roll, this model loses a single wound. The multiple wounds D3 special rule only applies to people under the central hole. And then a Warpfire Dragon is a wizard, or maybe a wizard, sorry. Level 1 for 30, level 2 for 60. So you can have a wizard as one of your monsters. And it can have battle magic, demonology, and dark magic, which is pretty rad. It's explosive demise, fire and chaos, fly, large target, lore of chaos, magical attacks, magic resistance -2, chaos undivided, regenerate 5+, stomp D6, swift stride, terror, and warfire. I think feels really undercosted for what it can do with how good dragons are in this game. And you're not giving up your hero choice on a dragon either, which is pretty cool. They get a 5+ ward against any wounds suffered that were caused by attack that has either magic or flaming. So it's 5+ ward instead of basically that regen, because he normally gets the regen. So the fire and chaos kind of kicks in and means it's 5 all the time, because he wouldn't get against the flaming attacks. So yeah, I love this guy, and he's kind of insane. Then mercenaries, you can have Senegor chieftains and Senegor herds to keep up with you because you're a cavalry army, right? BSP for 25 points, and common or warriors of chaos magic items. Your Heralds of Darkness special rules: mounted host. All characters with the Herald of Darkness army must be mounted or have fly. Steeds of Darkness: when a unit in this army with the troop type cavalry or chariot makes a charge, flee, or pursue, it may reroll any dice with a natural 1 before discarding any dice that are required to be discarded. And then the Shadow Grow is for each character in your army that has the Mark of Chaos other than the Mark of Chaos Undivided. It must also include a non-character unit with the same Mark of Chaos and vice versa. So the idea is that like you can't just have a purely singular marked army. It's supposed to be an undivided army. That's it. And then we got our characters. Friedel the Chainmaker. Friedel is an exalted champion. She can be included in any Warriors of Chaos army using any composition list that includes this option. So she counts as that for the composition here. So you could take an exalted, then so this army could take it, right? Exalted Champion of Chaos. She could have one. She's infantry, 30 by 30, hand weapons, Storm's Wrath, full plate armor and shield. She's got ambushers, chainmaker, chaos armor 5+, commander and captain, and sorcerer weapons, gaze of the gods, impact hits 1, mark of chaos undivided, peerless raider, and rallying cry. She honestly deserves to go in the Wolves of Chaos, or the Sea, or whatever it is, army. Chainmaker: any standard captured by Friedel or any she's joined is worth an additional 100 victory points as a trophy of war. Commander and captain: unless she's fleeing, friendly units of Chaos Marauders, Marauder Horsemen, Marauder Tribe Huskarls, and Marauder Tribe Berserkers get +1 to their leadership while they're in her command range to a maximum of 10. And then Peerless Raider: 0 to 1 Chaos Marauder or Marauder Horseman unit in the same muster as Friedel may have the Ambusher's rule for free, so no extra points. Take the Marauder Horseman because it's way more points saved that way. In addition to Friedel's your general, you may apply a +1 or -1 modifier to the result when rolling to determine if she or any unit of Chaos Marauders, Chaos Marauder Horsemen, Marauder Tribe Huskarls, or Marauder Tribe Berserkers with the Ambusher special rule arrive this turn or are delayed. And then Storm's Wrath is a +2 strength, -1 AP, extra attacks D3, magic attacks, and requires 2 hands. But the strength mod is only in the first round because it's like a big spear. And then, surprise, surprise, Galrock the Great Day, 465 points. He's a lot like the Warpfire Dragon, in that he has like some like the same core stats, 6 across the board with 4 initiative and 6 attacks, leadership 9. Yeah, Wicked Claws, so strength -2 for the like hand-to-hand weapon. Darkfire of Chaos is strength 4, breath weapon with a -1 AP and flaming attacks. And then the other head has the Fumes of Contagion, strength 2, breath weapon, magical attacks. But AP NA because no armor saves are permitted against it at all. So low strength, but it just goes right through your armor and kills you. He's a level 4 wizard, knows the lore of dark magic. So yeah, but he's a hero, right? Then we've got Armored Hide. He can be included in any Warriors of Chaos army that may be using any composition list. He's fielded exactly as presented here. He just shows up. Breath of Change, once per game, instead of using the Dark Fire of Chaos or Fumes of Contagion, Galrock may instead use the Breath of Change. It is place a flame template with its broad end over the intended target and the narrow end touching his base. Any model, friend or foe, is under risk of being hit, just like a flame weapon. And they have to make a toughness test. If it's failed, they're dead. If it's passed, they are able to be fended off the onslaught of chaotic energy and the attack has no effect. It just kills you. Man, That's insane. What an insane weapon. Yeah, just overwhelmed by the warping power chaos and immediately dies. I don't know what to say about that. You got to roll under your toughness. So some armies it's going to totally suck for. Some armies it's going to not be such a big deal against. But what a wild ability. And then he's got Armored Hide 1, Breath of Change, Close Order, Fly 10, Large Target, Mark of Tzeentch, Regenerate 5+, Spirit of Galrock, Stomp Attacks D6, Swift Stride, Terror, and 2-Headed Dragon. Spirit of Galrock is, during the start of the turn phase of each of your turns, make a leadership test for Galrock. If it's passed, he's controlled as normal. Otherwise, they start infighting because his spirit rebels. The dragon inside him starts fighting back. His wizard level is reduced to 1. He can only cast 1 spell. His movement becomes random movement D6, or 2d6, sorry. If he's engaged in combat, he must direct D3 of his attacks against himself, rounding down. Any wounds against himself are added to the enemy's combat results score, because the noble dragon inside him fights back. I don't know how many points that shaved off his point value, but man, oh man, this is it's a wild, wild ability to just kill anything you want with your breath. And he's leadership 9, so it's hard for him to fail. And we've already been through all these new unit types, so let's take a look at their magic items. Some classics returned here, like the Obsidian Dreadglaive. It is +2 strength, -1 AP. It's only taken in a Heralds of Darkness army, though, so it's basically in the Knight army. Armorbane 1, Killing Blow, magic attacks, requires 2 hands and strikes last, so like a big, cool Killing Blow Armorbane weapon. Dagger of the Dark Pantheon. This one's available to anybody. It is a -2 AP, just magic attack. And then for each wound an enemy loses as a result of this dagger, its wielder can get a +1 to its next casting or dispel roll. So yeah, you can stack up bonuses to cast. The Chieftain's Blade, which is for Wolves of the Sea army. Strength +1, -1 AP, Armorbane 1, and magic attack. While engaged in a challenge, +1 to your modifier to hit. 30 points is a good one to give if you want to try and buy the first turn. So you give this to a champion and go have them fight with this guy. So he gets +1 to hit, and then he also gets +1 strength, -1 AP, Armorbane, and magic attacks. The Taskmaster's Scourge. This one's infantry only. During the command sub-phase of this turn, the wielder with the Taskmaster's Scourge can attempt to use it to urge the people around him. They make a leadership test using their own leadership. If the test is passed, until the start of the next start turn sub-phase, the character and any unit they've joined gain D3 modifier to their movement to a maximum of 10. And you get AP -1, extra attacks 1, and magic attacks, because you lash them until they do good. Then we have Demonic Plate Mail, 50 points. Models whose troop type is infantry or cavalry only. It's a full plate armor, and it improves your toughness and initiative by 1 for 50 points. Mighty Serpent Scale Mail for 40 points. I can only take my models of the Wolves of the Sea. It is a suit of heavy armor, and you get strike first. So again, another one you can potentially, if you get champions, could take 50 points, or whatever the champion is in the unit you're sending can take 50 points. That's a good one, just get strike first. Not a lot of Chaos Champions that can take 50 points of magic items that can't kill another 1 wound champion with that. And then Talismans, 45 points. The bearer, the Talisman, the Carrion Crow, as the Regenerate 5+, and Poison Attack special rule. So a cool like after save with poison attacks. Little offense, little defense. Talisman Soaring Eagle for 35 points. Magic resist -2, and a 5+ ward save against any wounds caused by magical attacks. So some handy little talismans, but yeah, I mean, the 45.1 is I like because it's offense and defense. I would consider that one for a high attack value character. Soaring Eagle, I'm not super sure, but unless you're sticking on something on a monster where you want the casting, you don't want them to be affected by magic. And then your magic standards, we've got the Banner of Dark Power. It's -3 magic resist on them, 50 points. And the Banner of the Baying Hound, 25 points. Can only be taken by the Heralds of Darkness, and they gain Vanguard. Sea Raider's Crest, again, only taken by Wolves of the Sea. 25 points, you get Fear, and if the unit already has Fear, it gains Terror instead. And the Icon of Darkness, any enemy unit that's targets unit carrying the Icon of Darkness is -1 to hit with shooting, because you're shrouded in darkness. Last but not least, we got enchanted items and arcane items. So enchanted items, the Blood Skull Pendant for 45 points, infantry only. This is a classic one. You may choose to inflict a single strength 8 hit on every enemy model in base contact with an AP -1 with Killing Blow, because you just swing the skull. That's a very cool ability. And you just automatically hit at strength 8, AP -1, and Killing Blow. Rod of the Damned for 40 points. The bearer of the Rod of the Damned may cast summoning spells of the Lord of Demonology as a bound spell with power level of 2. So it's kind of like a little familiar for casting spells. Demon Forge Barding may only be taken by a model whose troop type is cavalry in a Heralds of Darkness army. On turn that the bearer charged, their mount and all mounts in the unit have +1 to their attack characteristic because it makes your horses more dangerous. And as we know, in Warhammer, the horses always do more damage. Scepter of Power. The bearer of the Scepter of Power can apply a +1 modifier to any of their casting or dispel rolls. However, they should they roll any natural double and make a casting or dispel roll, the bearer suffers a single strength 10 hit with an AP of -3 after the effects of everything else have been resolved. The Grimoire of Ogvold. Rather than randomly generating spells they know, and regardless of level of wizardry, the bearer may know all 7 spells from their chosen lore of magic. However, they can only cast a number of spells equal to the level of wizardry each turn. That's handy for 50 points if you want to make sure you get a spell. And then Tome of the Dark Gods for 35 points. Mark Undivided only. When generating spells, the bearer of the Tome of the Dark Gods can dispel any number of the randomly generated spells. For each spell discarded, they can select any spell from Lore of Chaos as if they had the corresponding Mark of Chaos. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, that's also a for sure way of getting stuff for less points, instead of just knowing all of them. So there it is. We've got more options now for all the Warriors of Chaos. Some classic miniatures coming back, which I'm still surprised they brought back Galrock. I'm not surprised they brought back the Shaggoth. I am kind of surprised they brought back Galrock. I have so many of these miniatures I would love to build and paint, and especially the Cavalry Army is making me consider doing that as my next Old World army. Adam from Greenleaf Terrain just did his Ogre box for Spearheads, but he made it so he could base it for Old World as well, and we're going to play some 1,000-point games coming up, so I'm thinking about, I could pull up my Dwarves, or I could just paint 1,000 points of Old World, and this is really tempting. I do love that these lists are all themed and trying to like create more sort of like detail in the setting that they're currently putting the time period of the Old World in. And give them just some named characters that people can like grow into and maybe expand on in the future. This book does a good job, I think, of capturing the Warriors of Chaos as not like the total threat right now in the Old World, but just this thing that keeps coming back and is like marauding kind of around the edges of civilization. They did this with the Orc and Goblin one too. So overall, man, I love these books. I think for what they are and that they're kind of optional, I think they add a ton of value to people playing these armies right now. And I am here for more of that. So good job, Workshop. Thanks for sending along as a complimentary copy to review. And I hope you guys who are playing the Old World right now get excited to build some new themed armies, because that collecting old miniatures and playing a classic version of Warhammer, that seems to be the point, is to have fun and re-explore that world and go back in time. And I think play games set in a period of our lives where we were living very differently. And so I think that because they're using classic miniatures and stuff like that, I encourage everybody to engage with this at that level and look at it as an experiential thing and not necessarily a competitive thing. I'm sure competitive players will look at this and be like, here's the broken thing, here's the broken thing, here's the broken thing. That's so boring. I hate that. It doesn't do anything for me. Whereas like envisioning like people coming in from the sea and stuff like that, hearing about the new sort of like time period and having the Old World feel interesting to explore again in this like new way. It's kind of like the Horus Heresy, you know what I mean? Like you go back and there's that fascination with a time before when things were slightly different. I just feel like this is that for Warhammer. So good job, Workshop. You're still pulling at my nostalgia strings with this stuff. And yeah, I'm excited to see the next one. So big thanks for watching. We'll see you for more GMG reviews. Next time on MASH. Happy gaming.